All right, today we're doing Chapter 5, Lesson 6. This is your vocabulary for Chapter 5, Lesson 6. Make sure you write 5.6 at the top of your notes. Some of you have been forgetting to do that, so please make sure 5.6 at the top of your notes. And the objective, students will convert fractions to percents and then use the results in estimations. Okay, so make sure you have the objective written and your vocabulary, write that out as well. Percents. A percent is a ratio whose denominator is 100. The symbol percent means percent or per hundred. It is another way to write a rational number. So, percent. Well, think about it. 1 cent, if I have 1 cent, that means I have 1 penny. 1 penny is 1/100th of a dollar. So, per cent means per hundred. So, per hundred. So, that's why all percents are out of 100, because that's what the word percent means. Per cent, per hundred. So, we're going to write rational numbers, or fractions, with percents. Make sure you wrote down the vocabulary. We're moving on. Example 1. Writing percents. Letter A, 3 out of 20. We're going to do that one first. So, 3 out of 20. Okay. Letter A is down here. First write the fraction, 3 out of 20. What we want, because all percents are out of 100 per 100, we want to make sure that we change the denominator of the fraction from 20 to 100. Well, if I want to increase the number 20 to 100, I know I have to use multiplication. Multiplication increases numbers. What can I multiply by 20 to get 100? 5. So that's where we get this. 3/20 times 5 over 1. 5 over 5, which is the same as 1 whole. So that means 3/20 is equal to 15/100. If I have 15 out of 100, I have 15%. This is why it's easier to write fractions as percents if you change the denominator to 100. So if I have 1 out of 100, 1%. 5 out of 100, 5%. 25 out of 100, 25%. 90 out of 100, 90%. Okay? So any number out of 100 is going to be that percent, because that's per 100. Okay? So make sure you write this is 15 out of 100 or 15%. And then we go on to letter B, 59 out of 50. Well, I can tell you something right now. I know that 59 is more than 50. If I have more than 50, 50 is what it's divided into. If I have more than 50, then that means I have more than 100%. I have 59. That's more than 50. So I have more than 100%. I have more than all of it. Okay? So we're going to write the fraction, 59 out of 50. Okay? What number can I multiply by 50 to get 100? 2. Since I multiply the denominator by 2, I have to multiply the numerator by 2. So, when you multiply 59 times 2, you get 118. So now that's 118%. And I knew it was going to be more than 100 because I had more than all of it, more than 50. So don't forget that. You're going to need that later on as well. Example 2, writing percents for a real-life problem. Sorry. You do not have to write the entire story. We'll just read it together. You and your friends are riding skateboards in front of the school. Each of you takes a turn practicing ollies. You each take 15 turns. You were able to successfully land 9 out of 15 ollies. Write a fraction representing the number of ollies you landed, and then change that fraction to a percent. So if you did 9 out of 15, the fraction you would write is 9 out of 15. Now, there isn't anything I can multiply by 15 to make it 100. So I'm going to reduce the fraction 9/15 first. I can divide both 9 and 15 by 3. So I divide by 3, divide by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now what can I multiply by 5 to get 100? Well, I can multiply by 20. So if I multiply the denominator by 20, I have to also multiply the numerator by 20. So 3 times 20 is 60. What percent is that? You landed successfully 60% of the always you tried. Example 3, comparing with percents. Okay? So I want you to draw this figure here. You're drawing a box. And actually, I'm going to need to see that, so I'm going to erase part of that. Okay. You're drawing a box that's divided into 5 columns. What I mean is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. So draw bars for 5, just like this. Okay? It's divided into rows also. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So again, 1, 2, 3, and 4 lines divides it into 5 rows. Okay? So now I'm going to write a fraction showing how much of this is shaded. I have a total of 15 shaded out of a total of 25 little boxes here. Okay? Now, can I change 25 into 100? Yes, I can when I multiply by 4. Since I multiply the denominator by 4, I must also multiply the numerator by 4. 15 times 4 is 60, so 60 out of 100, this one is 60% shaded. Now how about the other one? Now this time, if you want, if it's easier, you can just go ahead and draw a circle for this one. Okay? So if you want to just draw a circle, I shaded it because I do want you to draw it, but if you want to draw a circle and divide the circle into 8 parts, that might be easier for you. So you can draw a circle into 8 parts. You're going to divide it once, divide it again, divide it diagonally one way, and then divide it diagonally the other way. You're going to shade in 2 of these parts. Then you're going to shade in another one, and another one. Okay, so if you want to draw that circle, that's fine. Now how many parts are shaded of that circle? 4 parts. Out of, how many total parts are there? 8 parts. I'm going to reduce 4 8s first by dividing both by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. So 1/2. What can I multiply by 2 to get a denominator of 100? 50. I can multiply 2 times 50. So then I have to also multiply the numerator by 50. 1 times 50 is 50. And 50 out of 100 is 50%. So now let's answer the question. Which figure has the greatest percent of its figure shaded? So which one has more shaded? The one that has 60% shaded or the one that has 50% shaded? All right, hopefully you answered this one. This one has 60% shaded, which is more than 50. Now your guided practice. 7/20ths. Make sure you write down, please, the problem on all of these. You're going to write down the problem, show the work, box the answer every time. 7/20ths. So again, for percents, I know that I need to get a denominator of 100. So what can I do to 20 to make it 100? I can multiply. How much can you multiply by? 5. So then I also have to multiply the numerator by 5. 7 times 5 is 35. 35 out of 100 is 35%. Number 2, 9/10. Again, what can I multiply by 10 to make it 100? I can multiply by 10. 10 times 10 is 100. Then I also must multiply the numerator by 10. 9 times 10 is 90. 90 out of 100 is 90%. And put a box around it. Number 3, 4/5. So again, what can I multiply by 5 to get 100? Well, 5 times 20 is 100, so I have to multiply 4 times 20 as well. 4 times 20 is 80. 80 out of 100 is 80%. Seven out of 50. What can I multiply by 50 to make it 100? 50 times 2 is 100. So I multiply the numerator by 2 as well. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 out of 100 is 14%. One-fourth. What can I multiply by 4 to make it 100? Well, I know 4 quarters makes $1, so 25. 25 cents is a quarter. So then I also have to multiply the numerator by 25. 1 times 25 is 25. 25 out of 100 is 25%. Okay? 12 out of 16. This one I can reduce first and then multiply. So 12 out of 16, I can divide first. I can divide them both by what number? 2, yes, what else? 4. I can divide them both by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Now, what can I multiply by 4 to get 100? 25, like we just did. 3 times 25. Well, if I have 3 quarters, how much do I have? 75 cents. So I have 75%. Okay. 1/20th. What can I multiply by 20 to get a denominator of 100? 5, then I have to multiply the numerator by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 out of 100 is 5%. Okay? 15 out of 40. I can divide them both by 5 first. Let's see what else I can do. Well, I'll just divide them both by 5 first. Let's see where that gets us. Might not help, but let's find out. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 40 divided by 5 is 8. All right. So now 3/8. Now I'm going to show you a different way to find percents. Because this way, there's no number that I can multiply by 8 to get 100. There's also no number I can multiply by 40 to get 100. Okay? So that's not going to work. All right? So let's figure out what else we can do. I know that I have 3/8. I know that what I want is some number out of 100. Okay, this should take you back a little bit. You might remember these proportions. So I have 3/8. I want to make it equal to some number over 100 because percents are all out of 100. Okay? So to solve this, we cross multiply. So we're going to multiply 8 times x and we get 8x. Then we're going to multiply 3 times 100, and we get 300. And now to solve for x, 8 is being multiplied by x. The inverse operation or opposite of multiplication is division. And I want to get rid of that 8, so I have to divide by 8 to get rid of it. That gets rid of it. Now I just have x. So on this side, I also have to divide by 8. 8 goes into 300. That's not something I automatically know, so I have to do long division. 8 into 300. 8 goes into 30 3 times. 8 times 3 is 24. 30 minus 24 is 6. Bring down the 0. 8 goes into 60 7 times. 8 times 7 is 56. 10 minus 6 is 4. Add a decimal and another 0. Bring down this 0. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 8 times 5 is 40. So x equals 37 and 5/10. So now let's replace, in this problem, we're going to take this right here, x over 100, and let's replace the x with what x equals. X equals 37 and a half, so we're going to write 37 and a half over 100. So what's my percent? 37.5% is my answer. So these proportions is another way you can solve these. Okay. Now here's a word problem. Make sure you write all of this, please. What percent of the numbers listed below are integers? So first we have to find out how many numbers are there. There's no math here, we're just counting. How many terms do I have? Okay. Here's 3/7 is 1, -4 is 2, 39 6/10 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 numbers. How many of those are integers? I'm going to circle the ones that are integers. 3/7 is a rational number, not an integer. -4 is an integer. 39 6/10 is a rational number, not an integer. 100 is an integer. 5 2/3 is a rational number, not an integer. So I'm not going to circle that. 0 is an integer. Circle that. -1/6 is a rational number, not an integer. And 19 is an integer. So my integers here are -4, 100, 0, and 19. So how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 of them. So of the 8 numbers, 4 of them are integers. Now what percent is this? 4 out of 8. Divide by 2 to reduce it, or by 4, sorry. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 4. 2, sorry. Now what can I multiply by 2 to get my denominator of 100? 50. 2 times 50 is 100. Then we multiply here as well. 1 times 50 is 50. 50 out of 100 is 50%. So 50%, or half the numbers, are integers. That's it for today. You guys have a nice evening, and I will see you tomorrow.